ஹலோ முக்தா.
Yes, sir.
ஓகேப்பா, ரெடியாப்பா?
Sir.
இன்னும் பார்ட்டிசிபெண்ட் எல்லாம் யாரும் ஜாயின் பண்ணலப்பா. கொஞ்ச நேரம். எங்க ஒரு 4 பேர் தான் இருக்காங்க. பார்ட்டிசிபெண்ட் என்ன ஸ்பீக்கர் வெயிட் பண்ணிட்டு இருக்கேன். ஆமா, 4 பேர் கூட, அது 3 பேர் தான் இருக்காங்க. இல்ல 3 பேர் தான் இருக்காங்க. ஓகே. ஹலோ. அப்படியா? சரி. அதெல்லாம் எதுவும் சொல்லலாம். Good afternoon, ma'am.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon.
Participant, only 3 members only joined, ma'am.
Pardon?
3 participants only joined.
Yeah, I could see.
Ma'am, can we wait for some time?
Yeah, sure. But I have to catch my bus by 3:30.
Oh, okay. Mukta, hello.
Yes, sir.
You proceed, ma.
Okay, sir. A warm welcome to one and all for the STP on predictive modeling and data analysis using Python-based machine learning techniques. I feel privileged in welcoming a resource person, Dr. R. Annie Utra, Associate Professor of Department of Computer Science and Engineering, SRM Institute of Science and Technology. Welcome, ma'am.
Thank you.
Dr. R. Annie Utra has done her PhD in wireless sensor networks. She has published nearly 10 books and also system analysis at Computer Point, Tirunelveli. She has been invited for nearly 18 workshops and conferences. She is a proud recipient of IEEE CLN Award and an Outstanding Receiver Award for Journal of Network and Computer Application Elsevier. Now, I request Dr. R. Annie Utra, ma'am, to take over the session. Please, ma'am.
Thank you. Can you see the screen?
Yes, ma'am, visible.
Okay. So, very good afternoon to one and all present here. Um, so, I think today is the last session, and you guys are too tired on listening and working out many things in Python. And since this is the last session, I was thinking to consolidate everything together and have a brush up to you in data analytics using Python. So already you might be knowing the concepts, the machine learning concepts, and how machine learning is implemented using Python concepts. You might be thorough with, I guess, because in the morning session also you had a hands-on. So I was thinking to have all the data analytics thing together in Python and have a demo in it. So can you just tell me what is the difference between data analysis and data analytics? Can anyone say, is it different first of all, or both are one and the same? Because we use these two terms very interchangeably, data analysis and data analytics, we use it interchangeability. Can you just tell me what is the difference between data analysis and data analytics? Anyone? So no idea or nobody is listening? Okay. So the difference between these two things is data analysis, in the sense we just examine the data to find out some kind of information. That is what called as data analysis. And data analytics is managing all these data by using some tools and techniques. So this is what data analytics. So in order to just, we are not just only pre-processing, or we are just fetching the data alone, we are just processing it also. So that is what we say this as data analytics. And I'll just cover up some of the data analytics in Python. So the content goes like this. So initially I'll just start with data analysis commands, which are the commonly used commands for data analysis in Python. Then some of the visualization technique and the pre-processing techniques. Some of the pre-processing techniques are most of the common real-world data sets contain missing data values. So how to deal with missing data values, and then we can go for
Part of cluster 3, also part of cluster. These are called as
so we have dimensionality reduction also. So why we are going for dimensionality reduction, and one of the technique for dimensionality reduction is PCA, principal component analysis. And then I can just tell you about the classification technique, which is KNN technique, which is a very common thing. So how we have, the Python is having so many modules. So for almost all the data machine learning algorithms are implemented as modules in Python. So if you know one way or one algorithm to implement, let it be simple or complex, it's not a matter. So if you want to fetch the code also, you can fetch the code from Python, because Python library provides the code for that also. And so the classification, we can have KNN classification. So how we are calling KNN, the same way if you are importing another classification algorithm or another classification module, then you can call that module also. So how to what is classification, and classification is explained in terms of KNN. Another one is how to generate confusion matrix. So every time we have to generate a confusion matrix, that is the result which we want to proceed with. And if you can generate the confusion matrix, then it is easy for you to interpret with the confusion matrix, and you can calculate so many things, right? So you can, using the confusion matrix, you can calculate the recall precision and so on. So how to calculate the confusion matrix. And finally, with clustering technique, the clustering is explained in terms of K-means algorithm. So this is how I'm planning to proceed with, but I'm not sure whether the time will be sufficient enough to do all these things or not. And this is what these are some of the Python data analytics tools or the libraries. So we have the libraries are, we have NumPy, which stands for numeric Python. NumPy stands for numeric Python, and this deals with n-dimensional array-like structures, and we can do some kind of basic operations on linear algebra, Fourier transformation, and so on. And this is the better way in which it is compatible with Fortran C, C++ also. And another one library, very useful library to deal with machine learning in Python is SciPy. SciPy stands for Scientific Python, and this is built on top of NumPy, and it will deal with, so already NumPy is dealing with the basic linear algebraic function and Fourier transformation, whereas this module deals with discrete Fourier transformation. This is just the advanced version of NumPy because it is Scientific Python. And the next module or the next library is matplotlib. So this is for plotting the graphs. So the graphs, we have varieties of graphs. So the graphs can be starting from the histogram, you can have a scatter plot, or you can have a heat plot. So using heat plot also, heat plot will be looking more elegant, and it will be, you can get so many information. So what is the percentage at which the confusion matrix can be drawn as a heat map or heat plots, or you can have a three-dimensional heat plots also. So which will be useful to analyze the data distribution and the results also. And the next one is pandas. So pandas is also useful to read the files which are in the CSV format, and for machine learning community, this is also useful in order to read the CSV file, and it will be converted into data frame where you can do so many operations on the data frame. And the last one is, specifically if we want to do some machine learning operations, then scikit-learn is one of the module or one of the library which can be used for machine learning purposes, which built on top of NumPy, SciPy, and matplotlib. So we can import all these libraries, and you can create a handle or you can create an object for this, so that using that you can do so many operations. And now this is the data set through which I'm going to handle these sessions. So the data set, this is a very common data set, and you might be knowing, since you guys are all very good in machine learning. I think the IRIS data set is very well known data set. But if you know the basic thing, then you can interpret anyway, in what way you want to interpret it, in that way you can interpret. So the IRIS data set is a flower. IRIS is a flower, and this data set is also called as Fisher's IRIS data set, based on the scientist who has developed this, and he is a British statistician and biologist. His name is Ronald Fisher, and he has included this data set in his paper in 1936 itself. So what is the difference here? Why they are going for a data set is, iris is a flower, and this is of similar. This is one kind of group of flower, and in this flower they have three types of classification, or you can say three groups of flowers are available. One we call it as setosa, and another one is versicolor, and one more thing is virginica. So how these group of flowers are classified is based on its sepal width and height and petal width and height. So if you just see the petal width and height is different from the petal width and height of this versicolor, and this petal width and height is different. The same way the sepal width and height is also. So here, see here you could see the sepal width and height. So based on this, you can classify what kind of flower it is, right? So just by seeing this as a human, you could see the flower and we can find out this is, you can say that this is Setosa because it is all registered in our memory. So what we are trying to make our machine learning is one portion, or it is a part of our artificial intelligence. What we are trying to make is we are trying to make the system more intelligent. That is what we are trying to make the system. We want the system to think like human beings. So that is what the human beings are trying so hard to achieve. So when we are just seeing just once, if you could be taught, if the flower is like this is called as Setosa. If the flower looks like this, then it is versicolor, and if the flower looks like this, it is called Virginica. But how will you say that, how will the system identify the same thing? That is what we are trying to provide some knowledge to the system. So how to provide a knowledge to the system? System will learn only data. So this particular picture is converted into features. So what are the features which we have taken? The features which we have taken are 4 features we are taking. Those 4 are, we have, so this is the data set which we are using. So this data set contains how many, this is the data ID, and we have sepal length and sepal width and petal length and petal width. So all these things are mentioned in centimeters. Okay, sepal length, sepal width, and petal length and petal width. So this finally we have the species. This is the target. So what kind of species it is, that is also we are specifying, whether it is Iris setosa or it is versicolor and so on. So this classification, how do we make this classification? We are making based on these data. So that is how the computer can learn. And this we call it as one data point. So all these things together is called as one data point. Okay, so just keep this in mind when you have a data point. Say for example, you have x and y axis. X is 2 and y is 5, say for example. So from in x-axis we draw some 2 distance, and y-axis we draw 5 distance. Both will be projected, and at one point both will meet. So this point, this is the point actually. So when all the points are intersecting at one point in some spaces, that is what the point is. So here also we call every row as a data point. But what is the dimension? It is a d dimension. It is not just 2 dimension, it is d dimensional. Over here, what is the dimension? We have 4 dimensions. So in the 4 dimensions, if you are projecting all the 4 dimensions in one point, and all the projections will meet at one point, and that point we call it as Iris setosa. So this is how CSV file. Okay, so this is stored as a CSV file. So we have to read. So the computer cannot read as such. So we have to read the CSV file, and in order to do some kind of manipulation. So how to read the data set? We have to create a pandas object. So pandas object can be, we are importing pandas. So already we have seen these are the important libraries of Python in order to make your machine learning algorithms to be executed. So import pandas as PD and import numpy as NP. So we are using, if we want to use some kind of numpy operation, then you can import this also. In order to use this one, we are just renaming. So we are having a handle for pandas as PD, and we are having a handle for NPy as NP, and matplotlib pyplot, because we want to plot something. So if we want to see the graphs, then you have to plot matplot lib.pyplot as CLT. and then we can read the file by using, so this will be read as a data frame. So the data frame can be manipulated, and whatever operation, data frame itself will have certain functionalities or itself is having certain functions, and the data frame can also be manipulated. You can convert the data frame into array like structure, and then you can fetch and do whatever operation you want to do. So if you are good in Python, then it is easy for you to do with, because Python, you say for example, we have the different data structure in Python itself is different. In C, C++, and in Java, we have the built-in data types like integer, character, float, double, and so on. Whereas in Python, the data type itself, if you see, we have lists, tuples, and then sets. These are the different data types, and we need not to define the variable as and when, whatever, based on the value which you are assigning to the variable, it will get the variable will be assigned. Okay, so actually what happens, whatever you are, everything is an object in Python. So if you are passing some list of values, and that list will be created as an object, and that is considered as a list object. And when you are assigning that to a variable, the variable is a pointer, or variable is a reference to that particular object. So this is the basic concept of Python. So this data frame can be converted. If you want to convert it into array like structure and then do some kind of manipulation also, it is very well, it is easy for you to do. So to read the CSV file, what we are doing, we are using the pandas object. Already we have created the pandas object PD. PD.read CSV is the keyword to read the file, and you can specify the path from where you are going to read the file. So this is the basic thing. Many a times it is easy for you, if you don't want to specify the path, or directly if you are specifying the file name, then you can store all these files in the Python directory itself, so that you need not to specify the path. Otherwise you can specify the path also. So this is how you have to read the Python, read the CSV files. And now these are some of the files which I am reading. So again, the three libraries we have imported, and this is using read CSV, we are reading the file. These are some of the additional commands. One is head of 10 will give you the top 10 rows. Okay, so top 10 data points will be displayed when we are using head of 10. You can specify, just to have a sample how it looks like, you can specify this. And another one is describe. So df.describe, the data frame.describe will give you the summary. So what kind of summary? All kind of statistical values on the statistical analysis of the data set will be provided by using describe. So in describe, what you can do is you can specify the count, and this will give you the mean, standard deviation, and then this will also give, so this will also give the quartile values, 25%, and so the quartile values are the statistical representation. So how much values, what is the 25% of the data point, and the median is the next quartile, and what is the next 25, the second quartile, the third quartile, and fourth quartile. So these are the statistical values, so that we can find out what is this is useful for to find out the distribution. Okay, so when we are seeing the box plot, then I can tell you how the distributions are, how can you identify the distribution of the data points using quartiles. And then you have something called value counts. You have to specify the column name or the features, and then you have, it should be followed by value counts. So these are some of the functionalities which are available, which can be operating on data frames. The same way, if you want to specify, you can specify the column name. Say for example, in this data, what is the column name? Sepal length cm and sepal width cm, petal length cm, petal width cm. These are all the column names, or these are the features. Okay, these are the feature names, and the feature names you can specify df, and the feature name can be specified dot sum, will give you the column sum or column mean, and so on. And another one important thing in Python is access is equal to 0. So in many times, if you see the number of parameters. One important concept of Python is when you have a series in a function, you have 20 parameters, say for example, and if you are not specifying the parameter name, and the parameter name has to be specified, say for example ABC, and if A is equal to 5 and C is equal to 6, if you specify the parameter name and the value, you need not to follow the order, and you need not to follow the number also. If you have 20 parameters and if you are specifying the name and passing the value, it is enough to pass only one or even two or three, whatever it may be. So this is one of the property of Python. So in many of the Python library and standard library functions, you will be specified with access. So access is equal to 0 means it's not the first column, it represents the column wise. So if you want to perform some operation, mean should be performed column wise. If that is the case, then the mean can be, you have to specify access 0, and access 1 represents row wise. So if you want to have a column wise, so if we specify access is equal to 0, then this will give you only 4 means. If it is row wise, then you have to specify access is equal to 1. So 0 will represent column wise and access 1 means row wise. So every row, if you have 1000 data points, it will give you all 1000 values. Okay. And then count what is the maximum of the column or the feature, what is the minimum of the feature, and what is the median, what is the mode, everything can be given by using these functions. You can calculate, and these will be helpful to do some statistical analysis on the data. Now, I can just execute a Python program, how it is being read. So I have already written a code for this. So I am just reading a CSV file, which is located in this drive, in this path, and the data set is stored in the file iris.csv. And we are just reading, and it is read in the data frame, and we are just of 10, and we are describing, and I'm just as given as we have seen, just we are specifying only one column. Mean column is specified and the mean is being calculated, and we are just printing it. The same way, what is the mean for axis 1? So axis is equal to 1 means it is the row wise axis, right? So what is the mean when it is calculated in terms of rows? Row wise it calculates. So you can run this and you can find out what is the result of this. So this is the output. Okay. So we are using we are reading, and then head of 10 is displayed. So we are just reading head of 10. So 10 values, 0 to 10 rows are displayed, and we are telling describe. So as I told you, all statistical values will be displayed. So what is the count for? So in the ID 150 rows are there, and sepal with 150. Totally we have 150 data points. So everything is given as 150. And what is the mean? So column wise, the mean is given, and what is the standard deviation? This is also column wise, and what is the minimum value? And this is what I told you, the quartile. So 25% of the, how much is being covered in the 25% of the data, how much is being covered in the 50% and 75%, then it gives the maximum value also. Then we are displaying what is the mean value. So the column wise mean we are asking for. So the column wise mean, it is just this, sorry, row wise mean. So we, this is the, this is the mean for the column sepal width. So the mean for column sepal width is 3.0541. You can check the mean here also. What is the sepal width? Here also it is the same thing, 3.05400. So you can cross check it. And then when we say mean for axis is equal to 0, it will calculate from column row wise. So every row, what is the mean, it specifies. So it finally specifies for all 150 data points. Okay. So this is how it is being executed. And the next one is data visualization. So how to visualize the data? The data visualization can be done in different times. One is before, so just to analyze the data, you may want to have a data visualization. Just by visualizing the data, you can identify that how the data are being distributed. So based on the distribution, you can select a particular model. Okay. So if the data are skewed or whether it is a normal distribution. So if it is a normal distribution, what kind of model we have to go for? So before fixing up a model or before doing modeling, you can go for a data analysis, data visualization, or after the modeling and after fitting the model for your data set also, to get the results, you can go for visualization. So these are the two things which you definitely need a data visualization. So the first one is histogram. So what is histogram? Can you tell me what is a histogram? Anyone? What is histogram? Are you guys with me? Already you might have studied all these things, right? What is histogram and how to make histogram? Anyone? So the histogram is the one, we have different bins. So if you just see this one, the histograms are, these are all called as bins. Okay. And in the bin, you can, whatever values which are ranging between, so we say age frequency is between 0 to 10 and another age frequency is 10 to 20. So whose age frequencies are between 0 to 10, all the values will be pushed inside the histogram and this will give you the final value. The same way, the values, the age range varies from 10 to 20. All the values will be pushed inside this bin and finally it will give the total count. So this is what the histogram is, which is useful for to identify how the data is being distributed, how much is the range. So how much data are being distributed in this range and how much data are being distributed in this particular range and so on. So this is what histogram is. And the histogram range, if it is continuous, over here this will not have this will represent from 0 till 9. So the values will be included from 0 to 9. 10 will not be included. And when you are seeing the next bin, it will be included from 10 to 19 and so on. And when you are seeing the next bin, it will be 20 to 29 and so on. So this is what the histogram. And to draw the histogram, these are the two different ways in which you can draw the histogram for any data set. So here we are using figure and figure size. We are specifying what is the size of the figure. The size of the figure is mentioned in terms of inches. And this is the height of the 8 is the 8-inch height and 4-inch width. And you can, if you want to use some subplots, in this we are using only one subplot. Here it is mentioning either you can say subplot 1 comma 2 comma 1 or you can make it as 1 to 1, and this is representing 1 cross 2 grid, or you can make it as 1 cross 1. Suppose if it is 1 1 1, we just write 1 1 1, and if that is the case, it is 1 cross 1 grid and only one subplot we have. And we specify what is the X label, Y label, and what is the title, and then you can call for what data frame we are drawing the histogram, that you have to specify. So as I told you, the bin has to be created. Bin should be created for whom? Bin should be created in terms of age. So only in the age group, how many people are, if you want to know how many people are in what age group range, if that is the case, then we are passing age as a parameter. So for this I have taken another data set. So this is the data set. We have a user detail data set. This is the data set I have taken. So one more data set we have. This also has ID and first name, last name, age, PTC, relationship, gender, and income. So in this case, if we want to identify how many people are in particular age group, then we are using age as the parameter. So for the histogram, we are passing age. For age, we are drawing the histogram, and bins is equal to range, and the axis is equal to x1. Another way is you can just use figure, and the maximum, the normal size will be, the default size will be taken if we are not specifying the size. So size will be specified in terms of inches, and then we have X label, Y label, and the title. Then we are drawing the histogram also. And the next one is we have a histogram which can be a stacked histogram. So here we are using a iris data set. So iris can be loaded. So if you want to load iris, since iris data set is a benchmark data set, it is readily available online, can use the data set. So automatically you can load the data set from the library itself. So sklearn is a very important or very useful library for machine learning algorithm. So if you want to use some machine learning algorithm, then you can use this sklearn, and the data set is from the sklearn. You can import load iris, so that we are just loading iris here, and then the data set x is equal to iris dot data. So only, as I told you, the iris data set contains, this is what iris data set is. The same data set we are loading it from the library itself. And here we have four features. One is uh, sepal length and width, and petal length and width. And finally it is, so up to this is the data, and this is the target, species is the target. So what we are doing, all the data are stored in X. We are collecting the data, that is the four data set which we have, and then the target is being collected in Y, and we are converting this data into a data frame, so that you can do some kind of manipulation. So in order to convert it into a data frame, we just say data frame. And where is data frame? The data frame is in pandas. PD dot data frame of X, df is equal to PD dot data frame of X. So in Python, as you know, if you want to convert from one data type to another data type, say for example, you have some data type, tuple data type T, and if you want to convert T into a list, how will you convert list of T? So you have to specify in which data type you have to convert. You have to specify that data type just before. So either set of A, or you can say list of T, will convert the list tuple T into a list. The same way, we are just reading the data, and this data should be converted into a data frame. So we are passing data frame of X, and then you can plot the values. But the data frame contains four different features. Okay, so this is called as multivariate. If you see four different, you might have heard about single variate and multivariate. What is single variate? Anyone? What do you mean by single variate, and what do you mean by multivariate? What is single variate and what is multivariate? Any idea? Or nobody is listening? Please respond. Miss Geeta? Miss Geeta? Are you here? Miss Samuta? Are you here? Are you here? Am I audible?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So multivariate, the difference between single variate and multivariate is single variate means only one feature. So we just concentrate on only one column. If it is multivariate, we concentrate on many columns, right? Many features we are considering. So in this iris data set, we have it is multivariate, we have 4 features. So if we want to display all those things, it should be a stacked one. We have to stack it. Okay, so this is what the stacked one is. So first column will be placed, and the next column and its label will also be placed. So I can execute all these things. I have some problem with my Python IDLE also. Let me check whether it's running or not. Yeah. So this is the histogram which is being generated for the first one. So we have executed, we are reading the file, CSV file, and then the figure is the default figure, and we are naming the x-axis, y-axis, and the title is histogram, and the bin size is ranging from 0 to 80 with a 10 difference. So if you just see the gap, the 10 difference, 10 to 20, 20 to 30, 30 to 40, and so on. And so there is no subplots here. Okay, so only one diagram we are doing. So all the values which are ranging from 0 to 9 will be placed inside, and the final total or the frequency will be given by the histogram. So this is very useful to find out the distribution. Okay, so another one, this is the next diagram what we are using. So the next diagram uses, we are specifying the height and width. So this is the height, 8 inches height, and but this does not look like 4 inches. And subplot is 1 cross 1. We have only one plot. This will give you the subplots, number of subplots. So here we have only one subplot. And again, this is another way in which you can use. So either you can use plot.hist, or you can simply use hist. So when you are using all these things, the parameters are different. And if you want to show, if you want to print it, then you have to use the function called as show. And another one is you have a scatter plot also. So if you want to have a scatter plot will give you a good idea how these data points are being clustered also. Okay, so if you can make, but normally the data points will be, if it is only 2-dimensional x and y, it is easy for you to identify how the data points are being clustered also. But majority of the time our data sets will not be only 2 parameters. It will have more than 40 features or even 50 features, and so many 100 and so on. So the dimension is d dimension. So the scatter plot will not be giving you the correct thing. But if it is a 2-dimension, it is easy for us to identify. Now, say for example, the other data set which I have given, we can specify the x-axis and y-axis, how much is the income which is received based on the age versus income. So as age grows, the income will also grow, right? And what is the color in which we have to plot, that is also specified. So if you just see, so we are just plotting that also. And when I am closing this, Yeah, this is the scatter plot. So the scatter plot is plotted across between um, this is across age and income. So this is how it is being processed. It is even 10 age group is also given with some income and so on. So when it reaches 65, the income is high. So that is how the scatter plot is given. And this is the box plot. So just before going to the box plot, I'll just explain you what is the box plot. So this is your histogram, and as I told you, the scatter plot will give you uh, this will give you a visualization how the data is being distributed if it is two-dimensional. And another one important thing is the scatter plot can be combined with the group by operator. So if we want to have a grouping, say for example, this data set contains two groups, one is a male group and another one is a female group. If that is the case, if you want to know about all these grouping wise, what is the income, then you can group the data frame. So data frame dot group by what you have to specify the feature name. So group by which feature we are going to do, and this will also produce a data frame. Okay, so already we have some set of features in the data set. Say for example, we have 5 features in the data set, like income, age, first name, last name, income, age, and so on. So we have 5 to 6 features, all the 5 to 6 features along with the grouping order also. So through what we are grouping in terms of gender. So initially it will be sorted in terms of gender. So all females together, all males together. So when you are collecting all these things, you can collect it. So this is stored in groups. So when you are collecting from groups, you can collect two things. One is the grouping which we are which we have sorted, which will be stored in name. Another one is the group frame itself. So the group contains the rest of the features, your first name, last name, age, income, gender, and so on. So what we are doing, we are collecting all these things and we are trying to plot group.age, group.income, and what is the style and what is the color. We have to differentiate the color only. Only if you are differentiating with respect to the color, then only you can visualize it. Okay, these colors belong to female and these colors belong to the male. So if name is equal to female, so name is what? We have collected it from this group data frame. So name is female, then you just make it as red. If name is otherwise, just make it as blue. So this is what is shown over here. It is all plotted in different colors. So this group by is also very important. And if you want to try with by yourself, you can try all these things. I have included some problems also, and you can try. And another one important visualization is a box plot. So what is box plot? You could have seen when you are going for what's that, the outliers, elimination of outliers. Normally we go for box plot. So the box plot contains 5 values. One is the minimum, it will give the minimum value, and then it will give 3 quartile values and maximum value. What are the quartile values? As I told you, it's a statistical parameter. What is the 25% of the data, and what is the 50% and 75%? This 25%, how much data are being covered in the 25% range. Okay, so what is the range of the 25% range, and what is the median? So what is median? It's just the average, right? So median will give you the half, exactly the half value, and the upper quartile will give you the 75% of the data, and it will also give the maximum value. So when you are drawing the box plot, you cannot always expect a symmetric box plot. So this is called as a symmetric box plot, where your mode and your Q2, the second median, will be same. Mode and median will be only when the mode and median are same, we call that as normal distribution. Okay, that is one of the condition for normal distribution. Mode and median are same, then we can call it as a normal distribution. And if it is a symmetric one, then your 25% quartile will be, this is the 25%. What is the value of 25% of the data? And then what is the value when we are calculating 50% will give you the median, and that is the average, and this will give you the 75% and so on. And this is called this is how when you are drawing this box plot you can identify whether the plot is skewed or not. Okay, so how the data are distributed, how it is skewed, whether it is left skewed or it is a right skewed, that you can identify. Now say for example this is the peak, this is the maximum value of the data point, but where is the median here? Here is the median. Okay, so if you just see the box plot, this is the minimum value and this is the maximum value, and the median is near.
சரியா சோறு வச்சுக்கிட்டு சரி இப்போ அம்மாக்கு வேலை இருக்கு அப்புறமா கேக்குறேன்.
So we have a minimum value and we have a maximum value in between. So this value is your 25% quartile. Here is the 25% and this is the 50% which is the median, and this is 75% upper quartile, and this is the maximum value. And where the median is being placed, the median is placed near the maximum value. So what is the meaning when your majority of the people are having, if you just see this, majority of the people are having maximum income or so. So the maximum value, most of the data points are in the maximum range. So that is how the median is now placed near the maximum point. Here it is just the average, it is symmetric. So if you see for the with respect to the maximum value, half of the people are having less than the maximum value, half of the people are having more than the maximum value. Whereas if you just see this one, the reverse. So if this is your quartile value, the maximum portion, so the maximum portion over here are more and the minimum portion here are less. So the same way, this is how you can identify how the box plot is helpful to identify the skewness of the data or how the data is being distributed also. So if you just see, this is the box plot and the same box plot is being plotted here also. So you just see when we are executing the Python code, this is the corresponding code, and when we are executing the code, we are getting the box plot like this. We have the female ranges, and even if you see the scatter plot, you could see most of the people, based on the most of the people are not having a higher income. So many people are having lower income. That is why the median is placed near the lower quartile. Here also many of the gents, the male also, it is most of the people are not having more number of the income is not more. Instead the income is many are having a lesser income. So it is placed over here. So this is how the box plot is useful. And yeah, so this is useful. The box plot is useful to identify the skewness, to identify the distribution also. And another one is the box plot is useful to identify the outliers also. So how outliers are identified? We say the intercluster So interquartile range, we call something called as interquartile range. And this interquartile range, if it is 1.5 times above the interquartile range, then we can call that as above 1.5 interquartile range above the third quartile. That means the third quartile minus 1.5 into interquartile, then we can call that as outlier. The same way, if it is below the interquartile, 1.5 times the interquartile, then also it is outlier. So one is we just calculate the first quartile, second quartile and third quartile. So if it is above 1.5 times above the first below the first quartile, then we call it as outlier. If it is 1.5 times above the third quartile, then also we can classify that as a outlier. So your box plot is useful to identify the outliers also. That calculation will also automatically done by box plot, so that the outlier can be eliminated. So from this you can eliminate the outlier and you can do the processing. So this box plot is not only just for visualization, this is also useful for to identify the outliers. And these are all how to draw the line plot. And line plot, we have just, if you just say plot, it will plot the line plot. The same way you can go for a bar chart, and again when you are going for bar chart, you can use a group by what, and then the count can be drawn as a bar chart. You have to specify what is the kind, and the kind is bar, then bar chart will be. So plot, if the plot is not just specified, it is just the line plot. Otherwise you have to specify what kind of plot it is, whether it is a box plot or it is a bar plot. So there are different ways in which you can draw in Python. So helps are available, very much helps are available. So here what we are doing, we are finding out the species mean. All species mean, we are grouping it by the species, and then we are calculating the mean, and we are just trying to plot the bar graph. And after drawing the bar graph or whatever it may be, you have to, if you want to print it, then you have to say plot dot show has to be printed. And this is another way in which you can get. So already I told you, when we are using load from the standard online, we are just loading the data set. If you have your own data set, how to slice it. So this is how you can use the slicing. So slicing can be done by using the function ix, and this slicing operator, I guess. So when we have simply colon, then no row is not specified, and we are just calculating the first column. And since row is not specified, what is the meaning? All rows are covered from the first row till we have 150 rows. All 150 rows we are slicing, and then we are calculating the mean, and that is stored in x1 the same way. So this is how you can slice, and you can store the entire sliced column in some data frame also, and you can draw the bar chart. And this is one thing. And these are few more commands which are used in data sciences. And we have np.array, array like structure we want to convert, you can use this np.array. And this Ravel returns contiguous flattened array. So the array will be flattened. So when you have two different arrays, it will be flattened and it will be given as one array. So when we are doing the manipulation, you need to do all these things. And another one, reshape is also necessary when you are doing this. And another one, LOC is very important. LOC, label based on index, label based or index based. So when we are having, this is useful to slice. So as I told you, if you want to slice all rows from 1 to till the end, we are slicing. And what are the columns we are slicing? You can give the columns. Sepal length and sepal width we have specified. All these things, only sepal length and sepal width alone sliced, and that can be stored over here. So if you want to find out the manipulation, if you want to fetch all these things and do some operation on it, you can do it like this, and you can convert it into array like structure, and then whatever manipulation. Another one way to slice all these things is ILOC. So LOC or ILOC, or you can use IX. IX is the hybrid version of LOC and ILOC. Okay, so the data frame dot ILOC, and you have to specify the row and column selection so that that particular thing can be converted into the data frame. So this is how you can do the slicing operations, and these are some of the important functionalities of Python. And another one is in sklearn, you have fit is one of the. So first we have to fix the model, and once the model is fixed, you have to fit your data set onto the model. So what is the function which is used? We are using fit is the model. So I'll just, I think we don't have much time, so I'll just wind up with this. data. So I was actually planning for all the sessions I can cover one algorithm, but due to limited time, I'm not able to complete everything. So data pre-processing. Pre-processing is very important, and we have to do the pre-processing every time. So many real-world data contains the missing value, or it may have some kind of placeholders, or it will be not a number and so on. So every time we have to, it is necessary for us to process the data, otherwise it will mislead. When the data, when it is a wrong data, or when the data is not available, the processing, whatever information you are trying to fetch, will not be proper. So what we have to do is, in general, wherever there is a missing value, the entire column or the entire row can be deleted. But if there is very limited data points are available, say for example in our iris data set we have only 150, and in that 150, say for example 100 data points are having some values, missing values, and if we are trying to delete all 100 rows, then the data set is not sufficient to train. In that case, what you can do is you can impute some values for the missing value. So there are different ways in which the values can be imputed. How we can do the imputation can be done in terms of mean, median, and most frequent also. So if it is so that depends on the application also. So in case of iris dataset, if the sepal length is missed or if the petal length is missed, then you can find out the mean of sepal length and then you can replace, or what is the most frequent you can calculate and then you can replace the missing value. But in terms of, if it is a medical data, it is not possible to fill the missing data. You have to anyways delete, because one person body is completely different from other person's body. Sometimes if the temperature is missing, say for example, it is not possible for us to replace the mean, or it is not possible for us to replace the frequent data or median, whatever it may be. But in majority of the application, it is possible for us to replace. Okay, so this is what the code for that. We are using sklearn, impute, and simple imputer. Again, you have two types of imputation. One is whether you are using a univariate or you are using multivariate. Suppose if you are using univariate, only column wise you are. Univariate means what? I told you, it's just a single feature. So if you are just taking only one column, then you can go for simple imputer. If it is a simple imputer, how you can how can you just, you can go for anything, the missing value. What is the strategy here we are using? The strategy which we are using is mean. So it can be converted, the mean will be calculated and the missing value will be replaced with mean. And then this is the model which we are using. Simple imputer is the model, and this model, our data set should be fitted to our model. That is why we are using fit. So imp.fit of x, and whatever model is fitted for this particular data set should be transformed into a proper value, and that is how we are using transform. So these are the three things always, whatever it may be, it is classification, clustering, or whatever it may be. You have to first select the model, call the model, and pass the parameter. And for this model, you fit your data set for the model and then collect the values using transform. And if you are trying to print, it will print with the corresponding model. And when you are, so this is how you can call the model and you can use the model. Almost all the machine learning algorithms are available, so you can use all these things. You can utilize these models, but anyways you should know how these models are working. So you can just go and check, find out the code for simple imputer. So how it is being calculated, that will also be available in the uh, in in the internet or in the web. So you can also, you should know what is the function, but you need not to do all the operations, because the operations are already implemented and it is readily available in Python, so you can use it. Okay, and what is another imputer is called as iterative imputer. What is iterative imputer? We have a multivariate. When you are going impute a value for, when you are and considering a multivariate, because if you just see this one, see this data data, this is a data point, and all these things together is forming this data point. So if this value is missing, based on all these parameters, you can fix this value. Okay, so if this 1.4 is missing, how can you do? One is, you can, if it is a simple imputer, column wise, you can calculate the average or the mean or frequent value, and you can fill in this. Otherwise, if it is a multivariate, because based on these values only, you have to find out what is this value. So what you can do is, you can go for another one imputer is available, which is called as iterative imputer. So iterative imputer is dealing with multivariate. So what is multivariate? This takes, this assigns the missing value variable as y and all other features as x. So here we have sepal length, sepal width, and petal width will be considered as x, and it will fit a model such that fit of x comma y, and a regression will be calculated. So regression, already you know what is a regression. It will identify, it will try to fit, it will try to draw a line in the linear space so that all these points will lie onto that. So a regression will be, regression model will be fitted based on these values, and then the corresponding value will be calculated and the value will be inserted over here. So this is what your imputation is. So you have two imputations, one is simple imputer and another one is iterative imputer. So I have the code for this also. I have coded all these things in Python, but no time also. So another one is dimensionality reduction, and this dimensionality reduction, this is the step to calculate how a PCA is being working. And when we are after reducing, you have to project why we are going for dimensionality reduction or the principal component analysis. It is not just only used for dimensionality reduction, it is also used to convert the dependent variable into independent variable. So if you have all the variables are dependent, right? So as I told you here, there is a connectivity between sepal length and width. There is, so it's all interconnected. Okay, your all features are interconnected. So when it is interconnected, you cannot simply take one particular column and then you can collect. So what you have to do is, you can make the so if you want to split all the columns, then what you can do is, what you can if you want to split the column, you have to make it independent. So how to make it independent? If the axes are orthogonal to each other, that is, if it is perpendicular to each other, then you can split all the things. So that is what your PCA will do. So PCA will not just reduce. So the basic concept here is, it will make all the axes orthogonal so that you can reduce it and the information is not lost. So this is how the principal component is used. So the principal component, you have to specify how many components, up to how many components you have to reduce. So how will you find out how many components you have to reduce? You can use a hello. Ah, okay. Ah, okay. So this just a last point, when you are using the component is how will you choose the component? You can use a elbow plot. So the elbow plot can give you how much information is, how much variance is being covered by every component. So if the component, if a number of component can cover up to 90% variance, 3 components are covering up to 90% variance, then you can use those components. So these are all the math which are behind the dimensionality reduction. So though I have the other slides for classification and how to calculate the decision tree classifier and K-means algorithm, due to time shortage, I am not able to continue. So with this, I finish my session, and thank you. Any questions? I am happy to answer. If no questions, we can wind up. Shall I quit? Shall we wind up the session?
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, ma'am.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you very much, ma'am.
Thank you so much.